Seriously, thank you so much to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Your generous backing is truly awesome. It is how I manage to keep making this content and much more a reality. Every little bit helps keep me going, and it means I can keep providing you with content full time. A special thank you to Diego Navarro Lunares, Kay Fernandez, Rodolfo Fernandez, Lucius Lau, Taylor Hunter, Jackson Frazier, Allison Stalker, Muna, Chisun Week. Thank you all so much, and I truly appreciate your support. All right, we are here for a very exciting ADC podcast with a good buddy of mine who I'm so proud to call a friend, Richard Gaines. Now, did I say your last name correctly? A lot of times I don't say people's names quite like they should be said, but did I pronounce Gaines correctly, or is there an accent on it?
Yes,
Okay,
that's exactly what it is.
because I remember you told me at one point you were Italian, I think, right? Or
Well, yeah, like originally, our family name, like going way back to when my grandfather came over on the boat, was Giannini.
oh, Giannini. Oh, that's awesome. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
again, I always say of all the artists on the globe, the Italians are by far my favorite. I mean, you need not
Um,
go further than the Renaissance to see, some of the most spectacular artists who ever exist, all coming from
oh yeah,
Italy.
they are, especially now too, with a lot of the bande dessinée artists and the animators. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
the character designers, some of the best.
Wow.
It's just like I do not touch them. I wish, you know.
I again, like I said, this podcast, I tend to go kind of like back to like some of the origins, and you and me met. I want to say at a studio which a lot of people don't even know existed called Cosmic Toast. Is that, am I correct? Is that where we first met,
Well, we actually it was
or did we meet
Rick
before?
Solomon, a guy named Rick Solomon from Anime for Celibate,
Oh,
introduced us.
oh, that's right.
Before all that, yeah, and we
I
became more acquainted at Cosmic Toast.
I want to say, and at the time, you weren't even a storyboard artist yet. I think you were like doing character design, is what you're initially hired for.
I think I was just finding myself.
Yeah, I remember you were at another studio. I think it was like Moon something. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Moonscope, yeah. No, I was doing storyboard. Was doing at one point. I think I was helping with like model sheets, and
Got it.
then I eventually later on, like the following year, when I got rehired, I was doing storyboard revisions.
Got
And
it. Yeah. Now, like, what? And here's something I've said a lot of times before. Some of my favorite storyboard artists are also character designers, and you
uh,
definitely fall into that category of somebody who's extremely good with characters. Like when I look at your boards, the acting, just the overall like stretch and squash. I mean, there's just so much you put into the performances of your scenes and your sequences. Um,
mhm.
I feel like a lot of people, especially board artists, a lot of them don't have that sort of character background, and I don't know. I feel like I don't enjoy it as much when I see people who are just really good with camera, like really, really good with camera, which
Yeah.
I love that too. But after a while, it's like I really just want to see a great performance. I don't know if you feel the same, or if you feel like your character design bled into your boards.
Um. Well, I always loved the idea of like putting as much pathos into characters. I feel like that the performance they have to deliver, needs to emote to some capacity, and it has to be clear. And I'm still working on that, and I have, since I've been out of work, it's been 2.5 years. In terms, so
Would that be like
Long story short,
2023? Like 2023-ish is when things started slowing down?
yeah, mid 2023, the summer, and then that was it. And
Wow.
since then, I've been doing like whatever freelance and commission and a lot of commissions. And recently, like I've been really trying to build up my commissions a lot more, just to do more characters and more cartoon stuff. And it's just to have fun, but also I think it's also but it comes and goes. It comes in waves,
Hmm.
And yeah, so, but if it was relatively consistent, that would be awesome. But like uh, but at least it's something. At least it's keeping me on my toes.
Definitely.
Um,
You
but I
know,
have not. I have not. I think it's just that as of late, I just haven't been doing like as like really any board work. Um, and so I did some freelance stuff much earlier this year, but that was
mm,
it. And like it's just a small time. But it was cool. It was a fun project,
you know,
and I love the guy.
I've heard, and I talked to a few other friends of mine. Some of them have worked in the industry longer than I have, and they describe it as one of the most humbling experiences of their career because I know at least like from when you and me met, probably like around 2014-ish, around that time, till 2023, I had a very similar experience where I had like too much work. Like I just like would go back to back on projects.
Yep.
Some of the projects, believe it or not, uh, I would get very close to getting hired on, and then they would tell me you didn't make it, but this other guy we hired him, and I said, "What's his name?" If you don't mind sharing that. And they said his name's Richard, and I'm like, "Oh, I know who it is."
Wait a minute. I don't know if that happened. I have.
A
I
hundred,
don't think that
a
happened.
hundred times, I swear. Like we've been up for very similar projects, and I want to say at least half of the time, they would go to you, and I would be so happy. I'd be like, you know what, you guys got yourself a gem in Richard because not only is he a hard worker, he's like one of the nicest people like you're ever gonna meet. And I again, like I said, truly admire your work. Even back then, I mean, your work ethic was unreal. I mean, you would just be so hard on yourself, to push yourself to do better.
I
I,
still am. I mean, even
yeah.
with the commissions I've been doing, like just like little, like the people like contact me like, hey, can you draw my character? And it's funny, just as we're speaking now, just like a few minutes ago, I just finished up
Mm,
a live stream. And on the live streams, what I do is usually like sometimes I do a commission or something, but usually I take requests, and that's a free draw, doing free drawings. And by doing that, I'm trying to cultivate an audience, and hopefully a larger audience, and maybe enough people to where I could start like getting more you know more
yeah.
clients,
I
rather
remember.
than people just constantly asking me for free art. I'm like, that's only on the live stream. Do it, bro. By the way, they're called leam streams, even though
Yeah, I was
it's
gonna
a really silly
say.
name, but
So you currently do a live stream on YouTube, correct? Like, is YouTube your primary place where you stream?
yeah. Well, right now it's YouTube. People recommend
Oh,
uh,
Twitch, right?
Twitch. Excuse me. Yeah. But like I've been lazy. I'm just I don't know. I just been taking it very in stride. I'm not a good business person, and I
Yeah,
think I
it's
just tired as of late.
it,
So what I do is that instead of just like having to go through all the motions of like of how tos and and
hmm
this and
a lot of
and then
technical stuff
8,000
to learn.
books and stuff. Yeah, I decided to just advertise myself and advertise my art and be like, hey, I'm ready for commissions. Just send me some money.
Nice.
You start getting more, but people over time. It starts. Of course, it's all cyclical, but hopefully, like those the gaps between the cycles. kind of mitigates over time, or just kind of lessens over time.
You know what's interesting is like, and you, I don't know if you'd experienced this like in the early part of your career, but when I had first started in like the late '90s, early 2000s, a lot of people would sit me down and say, "Hey, like, save your money. Like every project you're ever going to work on is going to come to an end. No matter how long it is or whatever. Like eventually, it's going to stop." And
Had I been a spendthrift, I would not have been able to like last for like
right,
the last the last couple of years. And then now it's like, unfortunately I had to get like a menial job, just part time, but
right.
it's just something to like, pay taxes on as well, and then no, it's just something to keep, to pay the rent, and everything else will just, we just try to
Exactly.
rely on commissions and what else comes in.
And so many people like they look at someone like yourself. You work for Warner Brothers, DreamWorks. All the top places, and they say, "Well, this guy has got it made." But they didn't realize how long you struggled to get into the industry. It wasn't because I talked to a lot of like 20-something-year-old, people on LinkedIn, and they're always like, "Man, I just graduated. It's taking so long to find work or to get a test." And again, my heart goes out to them in this current job climate, which has been, the most challenging I've ever seen in my 25 years of working in the industry. Um, what was that like when you were, had just started on your journey, your path? Was it very difficult to find work in the animation industry, or like, did you want to, for instance, like work in other industries that were art related, or was it always animation that you wanted to do?
Well, I think animation was like was my prime interest, and it was hard to get in at first too. Like a lot of things, you have to know people, so you have to do a little bit of networking. But
Hmm.
eventually, like you guess you get to know enough people where you start to get consistent work and you're recommended. But it's like over time, that kind of slowed down, and it it's like I don't know. I guess in some ways, like I'm not the type of person that can fit in easily. Like I'm just kind of, I guess I'm kind of eccentric in ways.
You're an
And
artist, That's to be that's
well,
very fair. We're all artists. We're all kind of divas, if you will.
I'm not a diva.
I'm
Like
kidding.
not, I don't mean a diva. I mean just eccentric in terms of just like,
I'm kidding.
well, maybe not the most socially like you know co-
You say that.
socially sound person.
You always say that, and you're never anywhere that I've ever seen you without a group of people around you. Like literally like flanked by four people at all times who, are learning from you, or a lot of people don't know this too. You're from the East Coast, and you had a great group of friends from the East Coast that you helped actually bring over. Some of them I worked with as well on projects, and I feel like a lot of people don't know that about you, and maybe that's not something you really like to talk about. But I feel like your generosity to a lot of upcoming artists was something I was truly amazed by, because you don't really see that. You see a lot of people who are like, "Well, I want to get into the industry, and this is just me, me, me," and rarely do you see people who are like, "Hey, wait a second, like I got a friend who also has this dream. What can I do to help facilitate that or help this person, do that?" And that to me showed me like the depth of your character, which goes far beyond cartoons or funny pictures or accolades in the industry. It just goes to show like, hey, this guy actually like has a good heart, and I thought to myself like, wow, like if I could ever do that, for another person, and just again not just think of myself, I always just admired that about you. You're somebody who um, didn't necessarily like, even though you've worked your butt off and like you deserve everything you have, um, you would always eat last in a way. I always just felt like, wow, like, he's so selfless, such a selfless friend, and
I
selfless
well
person.
I'm trying to like well, in terms of eating last, that's something that I'm trying to discipline myself into. A lot of times when I see food, it's just like, oh, you know, especially in these very lean times where it's just like, oh, you know, it's like you don't, it's things are kind of expensive now.
I mean, you're living in
Less work and
California, which, now that I live
is
out of the state, I can definitely see how much, half my check was going to taxes, and then, all the expensive costs of living in California was just
yeah,
eating me and my wife alive. And, I felt like, we needed to make a move to Texas. And
yeah.
man, it's a lot less over here. I'm not saying like, I still don't miss certain things about California, but I can always hop on a plane and go get some good Mexican food, and then, jump back on the plane and head back to, there is a few people out here too that I ran into from the industry that, also decided to move out of the state. So, and I literally like within like maybe like a few miles of me. So it is kind of nice to have like some animation veterans out here. I always joke that it's like the movie, the one with Steve Martin where he's like a gangster and he's in the witness protection program, and they put him in this like sort of like Midwest town where, like, obviously he's miserable, and
Uh-huh.
it turns out that a bunch of other like gangsters are there too, and they all suddenly run into each other and have lunch, and they're like, you know what, there's enough of us here that we're going to start a crime wave. And I just thought it was so funny because it's like I keep running into more artists from California. I'm like, there's so many of us here, we're probably going to start a studio or something. um, but again, like I said, there's something also I've noticed in my 25 years of working in the industry: the absolute powerhouses of artists coming from the East Coast. In particular, New Jersey being a
I'm from there
huge.
originally.
New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I think those are the two places that, in my opinion, have had some of the most intense people and artists I've ever seen in the industry. Um, now that I know you're from New Jersey, now it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it the cold?
Oh,
What makes you guys like that intense and work that hard? Like, what is it?
um, good parenting.
There you go. I was gonna say, like, it's got to be a bit of a culture shock coming to laid back California, where everyone's just kind of
No, it
relaxed
was
in their
more.
in their board shorts and
Actually,
sandals,
if
right?
I was anything, I was well. Actually, I don't. I didn't notice how relaxed everything was. I was just more like I was so busy. I was trying to keep myself busy that I was, and that everybody, and that the industry itself is anything but relaxed.
I gotta ask you a
um,
question, and I get this question a lot, especially from the 20 something people that frequent me on LinkedIn. Do they need to go to college, and do they need to go to art school? Like, I get that question so often, and I always like to pose it to someone who's been in the industry for a long time. What is your opinion on that? Do you think a person needs to go to school to learn how to be an artist or learn how to work in the industry, or is this something you can pick up? Like, what's
it depends. It depends. I'd say that like for me, like I actually had to take additional classes here, and I took a lot of them, and I just to really kind of refine my skills. So I'd say yeah, but it depends where you go. For one thing, like I don't like so I know some places too. Maybe not in the industry, but like some places where there's rumored to like they'll accept only people with like 4-year degrees,
mm,
and I think that's kind of ridiculous. But I would say for the most part, you don't need a degree. You can also learn online. But for someone like myself, I do need guidance. I do need a teacher,
hmm
and so like I would like take classes. But as in terms of like universities and all that, and expense and just going in depth 100,000 or more.
Yeah.
I'd say scratch that. And nowadays, I'm going to be very honest, because of the plight of the industry, and because of just all the I guess you could say all the events that kind of led up to this perfect storm between and the onset of AI, which hasn't like reared itself too much in the industry yet,
Yeah.
but just the threat of it has actually, you know, um, has been like, I guess you could say, usurped by certain studios and or certain just companies in general, especially in tech, and they would just use that as an excuse, and then just and then send everything, even more stuff overseas, or hire replacements from abroad. And I've
It's funny you
and
say
I
hire overseas because, people talk about AI as, the biggest threat to the animation industry here in the United States.
mm,
But for a long time, animation, and I learned this on my first job
mm,
because when I walked into the studio, I noticed there was really only what are considered pre-production, which was like, character designers, storyboard artists, background designers, essentially the people that everybody before animation. And I was so curious as to why there were no animators in the studio. And they said, "Oh, well, we
mm.
just send that overseas." And at the time, I'm wondering if it might have been a
Way back in the
company.
innocent years.
Yeah, like it could have been like Korea or the Philippines. Primarily a lot of non-English speaking countries, which, if for a
Mm.
lot of people don't know, are probably working for a quarter of what we're working for here in the U.S. Um,
Yeah, now it's Canada.
and
You
now,
know, I
now
mean,
it's become English speaking countries who, where English is not a problem. And I do feel like, and again, I don't know, how that, but I've been seeing that be a much bigger obstacle for artists in the US. Is now you see jobs where it's like, okay, you got to be like, have Canadian, like a visa or something, where it used to be the other way around, where a lot of people from other countries needed visas to work here. Um, there seems to be a lot more going on overseas, but hey, Europe and overseas is a lot bigger place than the United States is, so of course they're probably going to have more
well,
things.
that's how they. It's a couple of things. It's like they want to buck the union, but also it's just like an I think this is a time that one, the union's weakening, it seems. I hate to say it, but like
Right.
because the industry is kind of in a state of dissolution at the moment. I don't think it's going to come back the way we
Mm.
wanted it to. It's
Were we like
unfortunately,
were
but
we in a sort of golden age then? You think from like I came in around 1999, and
but here the 1990s were the kind of the later golden ages,
there
and I
were
think it's just
it was pretty, believe it or not, toward the late 90s it was actually pretty lean. Like it was actually kind of like the precursor. I heard a lot of stories of like, people out of work for a good amount of time. And the industry I came into, everybody was like a lot more like appreciative of
yeah.
work. And I will say this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, in the times that we were working very consistently, to the time where we're not working very consistently, I feel like it was just sort of like this really humbling experience, because I almost at times, and I'm just speaking for myself, felt a little entitled to have my next job, and sort of
Oh yeah.
incensed at the idea that somebody would ask me to test, or
I
uh,
was always yeah, I
I
was
and
always like paranoid.
that's
I
just me
mean, I know
though.
it's wrong.
I always
Yeah,
felt,
I know.
I don't know if
Mm.
you ever felt like the slowdown helped humble you a little bit, or give you
I
uh
think the whole thing was humbling. I think for myself, I tend to be paranoid. I also and I I'm always I always like kind of put myself down, which is not good, but at the same time it's like
right, right.
kind of forced me to like to hit the grindstone on whether it's like just drawing better, or or not like or not taking things for granted. and just continuing to just
Hmm.
to look for work. And but it's like I think now I think nowadays this is something I recommend to everybody, especially for kids in school right now, in art school or whatever, who want to pursue this. I'd say because I don't know, I think the industry, could be a phase, or it could be something that's permanently lessening. But when AI comes in, that's gonna reduce everything to skeleton crews.
Mm,
I mean, outside of outsourcing, so it'd be like a double or multiple whammy. I would say
right.
that at this point too, I'm going to say people need to start their own business. They need to start doing things for themselves, even
Very
if they have
nice.
to take a day job. Especially when you're young and you have a lot of energy. I think that like a day job and then working like afterwards and on the weekends, working on your craft, working on jobs, building up so a repertoire, building up commissions or freelance or anything, or even your own brand, which I'd recommend, especially when you're young. Do
Nice.
that. Um, I'd say like the more I think this way you have more, basically you have others don't have as much say into your life. I mean,
Would you say more freedom? The artists
I'd say
today have a lot more freedom than we did in terms of like. I always liken our era, if I can call it our era, um, as to like the 1930s in the movie industry, where the studio is almost everything. The studio tells you what your next project's going to be, how the style you're going to draw in. There's a
I
good.
think though I think we have a lot less freedoms today. Believe it or not, I have
Oh.
because I think at least this is just from my experience.
Hmm.
This might sound. I mean, I'm not trying to jump to conclusions because this could be inaccurate. But from my experience, I just feel that there's less freedom today, only because of the zeitgeist, as in nudge nudge, wink wink. And I think that, but I think that, and I think it's much harder to find jobs in general. Okay,
Right.
it's much harder to find work, and I think that there's going to be a lot of companies are going to be taking advantage of that, and they're
Sure.
going to either exploit or they're going to like there's no company loyalty. When I don't mean like workers being loyal to their company. I mean vice versa. There's
Yeah.
never that. There's really not that nowadays. They will, a lot of companies. I'm just talking about companies in general. They tend to take advantage of you a lot more, and then once they don't need you, they dump you,
Hmm.
and that's and that's their gig economy. I'd say the only way around that is to establish yourself more as an independent artist. And that's the only
Exactly.
way to do it. I
That's
am. I mean, I am. I
You're living
some.
proof. You're living proof of that because you are
Well, I'm the
doing.
last person. I am the last person to. I feel like I'm the last person to like to kind of say that, only because I'm not as successful as others. I'm not as well as business savvy as others. So, but I just feel, I just kind of I just wing it, and just here, hey, buy
You-
my cartoons.
if I could describe you, I would say he's the artist. For those of us working in the industry, like you're a guy you could do it all. I mean,
A suicide. No,
you're
just kidding.
you're 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 100%. At your core, you love this art form. And it
Yeah.
shows because the work and the amount of time. I've never seen you do normal hours anywhere. I'm always like, man, like Richard is just putting in so much more into each sequence than he actually needs to. But that's just who he is. And a lot of people in the industry, knew that about you. And I feel like when they would hire you, um, it was like they were hiring three people because you could do it all. You could do characters, you could do animation, you could board. I think you even
My
did.
animation is still iffy.
I think you can even do backgrounds too. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you can actually do layout pretty well too, um, which is pretty rare because in our industry, for those of you out there, and who don't know a lot about the animation industry, it's very specialized, right? Like they don't like you to be sort of a jack of all trades. They want you to be like really good at one thing. Is that?
And then from there, yes, that is true, especially the main industry, the guild. But like, when you go to a smaller studio, then that's when like, you need to, yeah, that's when they want you to branch out a little bit more. And then a lot of times, people from the industry, have to humble themselves and take
Hmm.
a job, a non-studio job, or a really a boutique studio, which pretty much don't exist anymore now. And then like, then they would, they wouldn't, a lot of times they wouldn't be prepared for like, just how,
Hmm.
how they had to increase their utilities, how they had to like, expand upon what they already knew. And so that was
I thought there was
so that
something
was.
interesting about all of us too, because, and this goes double for you. Um, you'd meet people in the industry, you'd work with them at the studio, and then like on weekends, we'd have get-togethers. We'd get together at
Mm,
each other's house, or have a just
mm,
a night where we can all hang out. And
mm.
the first thing I would notice is you'd walk into someone's home, and there's equipment everywhere. There's Cintiqs, there's animation desks, there's so much. I
The
felt there was
ambience.
there was always there was like every artist that I had met in the industry, and again, I want to say like almost like 99% of them all invested in equipment at home, which led me to believe their work that they were doing in the daytime wasn't the only thing they were interested in. And so many artists were doing freelance outside of even their own studios, and continuing to work well into the night on other things. And was that something you felt you identified with? Like, did you like have a day job in the studio, and then at nighttime were you working for other studios?
I didn't moonlight like that. I think that like, I didn't really do that. I did it. I think I did a couple of times, but
Hmm.
usually for me, like doing that like kind of burned me the heck out. So it's like I know some people that were able to do that. I know some people way older than us, that
Yeah.
were able to do that. Like God bless them. I don't know how they do it, but like, as for me, it's like when I was done at the studio, I would go home and probably do something else. A lot of times, like, and I kind of like in the later years when I was in the industry, like I would, there were some times that I would do like, maybe like commissions or something, or just draw my own, something like that. But like, I think like, I would I think like I would just start reading a lot of books.
Very nice. Books on animation, or just like books on
Oh no,
various
just
subjects?
fiction, like fiction, like science fiction,
Oh,
just
nice.
to get my head. Yeah.
Would you say you watch a lot of things too? Like, do you like, for instance, like you're watching a lot of streaming? Are there shows you're watching right now, or do you like go further back to like stuff from the past? Like, what is it that like you enjoy watching?
I haven't really like, watched, any TV, like, any TV lately. Like for the longest time, I listen to some podcasts, and sometimes music, but like, usually it's just like a lot. I've been more and more listening to like audiobooks,
Nice.
listening to some, commentaries, um, some music. So it, you you know it's just, like I just felt like, I don't know if it's just laziness, or just apathy. Like I just kind of like I just have been avoiding like, just entertainment, like in terms of like
Yeah,
us.
it's
I
probably
listen to a lot of music, but
it's a little bit of a, again, sort of an oxymoron to, be working in the entertainment industry and then like loading yourself up with more entertainment. At a
yeah,
certain point, maybe it's like, hey, I just need a break or a breather. Um,
yeah.
I'm curious too, like, um, so you got into the industry, you got your dream. Um, was there a particular project that you worked on that you really felt great on, or you felt like, man, like this is probably one of the best things that I've worked on? Um, did a project like that exist for you? Like, was there something you worked on
You
that you
know,
felt? really.
I really enjoyed working on I worked for Renegade for a little bit, and it was all actually the job was through Warner Brothers. Not well,
Okay.
project was based on Warner Brothers, but they was outsourced to Renegade, and I was working for them for about half a year,
So you're
and I was
saying Warner
helping.
Brothers tends to hire outside of its
They're
own
outsourcing, yeah, sometimes.
to smaller studio, but that smaller studio is still doing Warner Brother quality work. Like you couldn't tell the difference, looking at your
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
versus because you've worked for both, right? You've worked for Warner Brothers themselves and also like an ancillary or, uh, you know,
yes, yes. Yes, but that was a Renegade Animation. I love that place too. Um,
great place,
and
by the way.
I was working on Tom and Jerry in New York, and
Oh, nice.
yeah, I really like working on those. It was a lot of fun. What was really interesting was the first time that I worked on not like actual scripts, but like outlines, and
Oh,
that
so
helped. That gave me some liberties that like I didn't think that I would be able to handle. I thought like I just needed everything line for line, word for word,
mhm.
dialogue for
How we're
and
trained
just
to be in storyboards is the traditional, not even
mm,
actually, I won't even say the traditional way, but in television, you have a script that's very much planned out. Even the shots are mentioned inside of your script, but you don't even see that in a lot of live action. But then there's something, and tell me if you've heard it explained this way, premise based storyboarding, which is essentially you get like a small paragraph outlining what's going to happen or what in general the
well, it
story
basically
might
gives
be.
it's an outline, like for this show, as well as like I know that Looney Tunes was like this too. They have
Hmm.
like outlines, so basically you have a general like idea of like the of what's going on in the story, and then like it's left up to you to flesh it out. And I actually
Gosh,
really enjoy doing that. I mean, I wish
wow.
I had more projects like that.
Would you say it was more
So
challenging than having a script that literally spells everything out for you, dialogue, like, or did you like that ultimate freedom where it's like, hey, like we're gonna have you
it's
complete?
both. It's both more challenging, but it's also at least it was more rewarding for me.
Yeah, because it's almost like you're directing uh, a sequence, really truly
Mhm.
directing, because you're doing everything, and
Mhm.
you're writing the dialogue, you're coming up with. I've even heard some people come up with songs, if they have like certain songs that they put into their
Oh
sequences.
yeah. Yep.
um, I mean, again, you're dipping into a territory where it's like, you're dipping into other skill sets that may not be, familiar to you, but yet again, you're taking that core of being an artist and saying, well, I can move this core into any direction I want. And
Mhm.
I think like those type of artists, like the artists from the 40s, um, maybe late 30s, like right into the 40s, where premise based or outline based cartoons had
Well,
oh,
in
the
the
50s
50s as
too.
well.
But I
Yeah.
I feel like Looney Tunes really, like, what they do you think they pioneered a lot of that over Disney, where Disney was doing probably like a lot more feature
They were doing.
film.
I'm sure like Disney was doing that in their on their shorts. And Warner Brothers really like took it to the next level.
I've never laughed
And also
as
the
as
MGM.
hard as I have laughed at Looney Tunes. I think Looney Tunes in particular was one of the things I found the most funny. Like literally, like I can look at stuff today, just like looking at the Three Stooges or anything from that era, and it's just so funny. I don't know if you got that too. If Looney Tunes was sort of like the highest peak. I would look at MGM stuff and be like more interested in the technique of animation. Like
I love the MGM stuff too.
I don't know.
I love Tex Avery.
Yeah, and I love Tom and Jerry too. I don't know if I laughed at it
Yep.
as much as I did Bugs Bunny cartoons or anything like that. But
Mhm.
definitely you knew, or Woody Woodpecker. The quality and the techniques were just so
Mhm.
advanced and just, I think, far ahead of their times. I think we're still trying to catch up to like the stuff they did in that era with a quarter of the technology that we have today.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so definite. And you said New York was. Does that mean like you were flying to New York to work, or were you doing it remotely, or?
No, 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 no. It's Tom and Jerry in New York.
Oh,
It was just
excuse
the name of
me.
the series.
Got it.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
it's like it was just their like misadventures in New York. It was, it,
That is great. And then, believe it or
mhm.
not, the project you and me worked on was Twinkle Toes in New York. I think, right? It was also another New York
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
project.
yeah. Oh, oh no. Yeah.
I
We live in the
noticed. I noticed
Matrix.
a lot of people have left it off of their resume. So, like some.
I think like the thing is, I think like as I went like in the industry as I went from job to job like in the main
Yeah.
industry like all of a sudden all the older the studios the original studios I worked at were kind of just like kind of like winked out of existence.
Yeah, we worked on another
Uh,
project together. Not together, but like
it's also because of the size of
um,
the resume at that point.
it was
So
a Japanese company. I'm trying to
oh
remember the
yeah,
name
that's
of
right.
it. I'm blanking on
Sprite.
Sprite. Yeah, like I don't think we were on the same show, but I
Mhm.
think I was like
Yeah,
leaving to go on to like my next thing, and I think you were just finishing on something else and coming on. Not saying you were like replacing me, but like I remember like them talking about you, and then I was like, oh yeah, this guy's great, like you really gotta like work with him. I don't, I
yeah.
don't I don't know if I ever told you that, but like I was definitely um, around when they were talking about bringing on more board artists, and your name
Hmm.
came up, and I was just like, you got to hire him. Like he's
Yeah.
definitely one of the best you're gonna ever have in this place, which is again a non-union for all those of you out there who don't know what that is. The majority of the stuff you see on television or streaming, especially from Warner Brothers, Netflix, Disney, are primarily done through union artists. I
Yeah.
want to say more on the pre-production side. Uh,
Pre and post.
yeah, like rarely do you see a lot of animation or actual production, animation happening here in the
Yeah.
States. Um,
Unfortunately.
and again, God bless the artists that do work in a lot of the Canadian studios or the Australian studios, because they do great work. I mean, it's not like I have anything against that. I just think
Yeah.
like it'd be nice to also give the talented animators here in the U.S. an opportunity, but I'm guessing due to budget constraints, the hiring a union person is going to be a lot more expensive, I think, than it
Mhm.
is hiring someone who's not in the union. Um,
Mhm.
and going back to the AI stuff, have you explored AI? Like, for instance, have you like opened it up and like gone on to like ChatGPT or like any one of these like things and
I ha-
seen what it can do, or is it like
I
you?
have
Okay.
I have um
And what did you
but
find?
like
What did you
the thing
find?
is what I use it for like I also use that Grok Universal and I would just like throw a drawing in and it would animate it and it was really I mean it may not have been perfect. It may have been like
Yeah.
the arm would melt into the ear or something like that or like it was like sometimes it was just it wasn't a lot of like I guess you could say I guess the pacing was uniform. Um, but it's still really good and it's still
Yeah.
I mean I'd say like AI should be used strictly as for for the most part. I mean ideally I would use it only as reference
Hmm.
because a lot of times I'm going to say this, there is no way that eventually that we're not going to be able to compete with AI. We're not going to be able to like to outsmart it in many ways. We're not
Mm.
outdo it, outperform it. What we but what we need to do, and this is where we're like independent productions need to come
Yeah.
in, or just people or independent like artists is just have a unique vision of
Wow. Yeah, because if you think
it.
about it, like AI is what? It's just learning off of human beings. And if if we
Yeah.
if we for instance, like I'll just say like the artists, it's
Mhm.
a computer did not just suddenly sprout um, painting or drawing or any of that stuff from itself. It of course had to
Mhm.
study us, nature. Um, and again, I do understand what you're saying. Like, eventually, like, it will be able to mimic us, better than anything else can mimic us.
Yeah.
But I noticed, and tell me if you agree or not, AI still needs a lot of help. Like you were saying, things can be produced fairly quickly, but it still needs a lot of help to get there. Like there's, like you said, things will melt into each other. The timing is not exactly right.
It's
It's not like,
for now. For
yeah,
now,
true.
there's that will improve. I hate to say it, but it's like I think again, I'm going to say like I do. This is where people, have to. And this is also I say this too for as independent artists like commit to their own work
Hmm.
and to keep their visions and to be as original as possible and to just have that so that they have their unique voice. But it's also that I do believe that humans, no matter how much they're replaced by machines,
Hmm.
need to actually commit themselves in order to stay not so much relevant for society, but I'm just saying in order to keep evolving, in order to get smarter, in order to at least retain their biological sentience and
Hmm.
to keep learning no matter how far the computers go, no matter how much they push them on us, that we still I do believe in human integrity. I don't believe in just lazily just letting the computer like the machine do everything,
Right.
and we just lounge about for the rest of our lives, just atrophying.
Like the characters from Wally, where they just are floating in space and getting really
Yeah,
overweight,
yeah, no, uh,
that kind of thing. Which to this
yeah,
day, I will say this: Wally could have been my most favorite Pixar movie ever if
uh-huh.
they never had anyone speak in it. I felt like if they just stayed on the robots and just stayed
Yes.
on Earth and never
Y-
just
yes.
all
I love
pantomime.
that. I know
Gosh,
it was kind of bleak looking, but
it
but it was still had a great
I-
message. If they
it
stayed on Earth and
just
that
just
and just kind of like they were contending with like what mankind did
yeah. What do
to the
we
planet, and
beautiful.
how are they going to able to like kind of reverse that? I think that would have worked better, but
I didn't need the human beings at all. Like I felt like the two.
yep,
I felt like
exactly.
Eve and Wally were so compelling and just never needed to say a single line of dialogue. Just they were so expressive, and it would have been the ultimate master class in the flour sack animation. Which, for those of you who don't know, flour sack is something you do when you're learning to animate. You take the most literally a sack of flour, which is has no personality to it, and give it personality. I
And
think
flower
you
sacks are harder to draw than you realize.
right, exactly, because
Because you have to get those volumes correctly, and getting keeping characters on model, keeping those volumes consistent, and retaining and being volumetric and rather than flat is pretty hard.
absolutely. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, watch the movie Aladdin, and specifically the character of the carpet, and
Carpet, yep.
you'll really see that exercise taken to the extreme. Where again, a lot of people are like, "Well, I got to have really good facial expressions. I need to be really good with hands," and which is all true. But what happens if you strip all that away? What do you have? You got this carpet, and can you get emotion from this inanimate object? And
Mm,
I think truly, like when I think of AI, I think of something that is inanimate. It isn't us. It doesn't have a soul like
mhm.
you and me have. But um, I feel like in the hands of artists, it's a lot more powerful, a lot more potent,
Yeah.
versus like in the hand of just someone who hasn't actually learned the discipline of drawing or animation. And again,
Oh, of course.
to your eye and to my eye, we'll still be able to suss out and see things that the normal person might not. Not saying that
I think it was on the I
matters or
think it was on the
anything, but
Incredibles. Yeah, I think it was on both the Incredibles and this one short that was the CG short. I forget it was about a dog and it was a short but Dale Bear, God bless his soul, God rest his soul,
yes,
uh actually went in and just did like some 2D keyframes of the character just to kind of push the CG.
wow.
And I think that was and that really gave the character a little more life.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I think then if they just went right to just Maya or whatever it was at the
Right.
time.
Which again, if you guys don't know, like throughout your career, software will continue to evolve.
Mhm.
And the only reason I brought up AI too is the software that I want to say both you and me use. I use Photoshop and Storyboard Pro as like my two dominant softwares when I do my work as in storyboarding or character design.
Mhm.
Both of those now have AI in them. I believe
Mhm.
Storyboard Pro has something called Ember or Amber. I can't remember the name of it, but
Oh, the Blender.
no, it's an actual AI tool within it.
There are so many of them, I can't even
Yeah,
keep up. I don't even, and it's all blurred into one. So
yeah,
I
it's slowly.
if it's not ChatGPT, it's just like, oh,
I
it's
will
just
say
it's a
this
blur.
though. One thing AI has truly saved me from is my
Mhm.
horrible grammar. I've never been a person who could really write uh, and write an email or something and feel confident about what I wrote. So I will say this: it is nice being able to run something I just wrote through AI and say, "Can you please make sure that like I don't sound like an idiot, and can you please like put the proper grammar in this?" And so
Mhm.
that's one thing in my life. It's completely helped me with is just writing in general, which I've never
Mhm.
felt a real a kingship to or.
I love writing.
You know,
I mean, not so much like shows, but actual short stories.
and God bless you for
It's
that, because that's been the hardest thing for me is but actually too, just before COVID, I started exploring with a few friends of mine in terms of like creating a project, Cosmic Point Toast, and I can't tell you the feeling it gave me working on something that was my own. And I know you've throughout your career have worked on a lot of things for yourself. A lot of like original characters, original stories. Um, I think one of them was hilarious. I don't even know if you released it, called Muscular Man or something. Um,
oh yeah, yeah. Like we that's something my roommate and I like bandied about for a while.
yeah.
I hate myself because there was a lot of stuff that I just never we just never pitched.
And that's
And like
fine. I mean, hey, what the heck, you know? You know,
I know. I just felt like just completely lazy.
Can I ask
Um,
you something? What do you think about crowdfunding now? Like, sites like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, like
um,
where you can
I think
seek
they
funding
I think
outside of
they
the
could be
studio system?
useful. I think they could be useful. It really depends. But they I haven't used them yet. Maybe perhaps like one of these days.
Hmm.
I'm gonna I'll use it. I probably will. I probably need to soon.
You heard
But
it. You heard it here first, folks. Richard Gaines is going to be starting a Kickstarter, so get in now.
yeah.
Be first on the ground floor to be part of Gaines Animation. Coming to you soon.
uh, well, we got to like take it in stride. We got to take it in stride. I mean, I have to make something first, and I've been kind of like burned out. I haven't had a lot of time as of late, so but it's good to stay busy
Hmm.
regardless, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one thing I will say, having known you, you've always been busy, like you're not a person who just like idly sits back and just kind of hangs out. Like you're constantly creating. And
Mhm.
anyone who's been in your presence and knows that you will find a piece of paper and a pencil somewhere and you will
Mhm.
start sketching and literally start drawing. Like it just pours out of you.
Mhm.
Um, and to me, that's where, I kind of hate to get into the idea of what talent is, um, because I feel like it kind of diminishes the hard work somebody puts into something. If
Mhm.
someone just says, "Oh, hey, Richard, you're talented," that's how come you can draw so well or something. I kind of feel that's not fair to say because no one sees the amount of time and energy you put into each drawing. And the hard work that you put into that,
Actually, I find it to be, I find it a compliment when people say that you're talented, because it's because it does back up like all those years you put in. I mean, even if it's
hmm
just like a simple word, a lazy word, that they ascribe to you. But I think that like I it's you know I think it's what's I think what's really like insulting to all those years of hard work we have is like telling us our prices are too high,
You're right.
or telling us that like expecting us to you know to basically draw things well out of our, like, not so much out of our comfort zone, but just draw things that we're not very good at,
hmm
because or they expect us to be able to draw everything or be able to do it within a couple of seconds, though, as fast as AI can render like images.
You know,
So
it's kind of weird, and I don't know if this happened to you in your career, but I started off in action. Like action was like my thing, like
yeah,
very
that's right.
heavy action adventure, that sort of thing. And I want to say about midway into my career, um, I really stopped doing action. Like I really just wanted to do comedy, and
Mhm.
I wanted to make people laugh, and I wanted to laugh, working on stuff.
Yeah.
And I really kind of felt like I had opportunities to do more action, but I just never really wanted to. Um, do you ever feel like there was a time in your career or a certain point where you just pivoted?
Mm.
Like, I don't know if that's something you experienced at all.
I used to just want to be able to do it all. And just when I first started, I was just like, I want to do action, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to. And then all of a sudden, after like in recent years, like it's just more like, all right, I prefer doing cartoons. I prefer doing like I prefer like doing acting over action. I prefer doing like more like comedy um over drama.
hmm
Um, because it's like, I think as when you refine yourself, whether in industry or afterwards, whatever, that you tend to find yourself, or you just get so burned out, you're just like, you just want to settle on what's fastest to you.
I'm so happy you say that because I felt like, wait, what am I doing? I'm cutting myself off from like, projects that I could be working on, or making a nice paycheck on or something, but I just don't feel like doing it. Like I just didn't have any like passion to tell those stories, and I felt like I needed to be more true to like the things I really felt passionate about. And in a weird way, I felt much happier working on things that
Yeah,
I liked. Again, like I said,
yeah,
saying that in today's climate, I do feel like, okay, maybe that was a little bit of a spoiled brat mentality that I had. And I do feel, since, for me, just like you, 2023 was a big turning point for me,
mm,
where things, uh, I went from the start of 2023, which was really very exciting because projects, I no longer had to bid on them or go test. I had a person who actually was like kind of like an agent. And I don't know if you experienced this or not, but she would
mm.
basically go find projects, at the top studios and bring them to me and say,
Yeah.
here,
Oh, that's
here's a project. You don't have to test. She would not take any of my money that I made. She would get a finder's fee every time I would take a job that she presented to
mm,
me, and it was wonderful. It was like a really wonderful experience, and I felt like, man, I had like actually earned something in my career where I feel like I can just have this person present things to me, and I would tell her, hey, like I don't like working on this type of stuff. I like working on this, and then suddenly everything just stopped. Everything came to a halt.
yeah. I
And
can't even find any agents anymore. I
yeah,
mean,
like
I never used one, but it's like I can't find that. I can't find like small studios.
yeah,
It's just so.
the person I'm referring to, she went in. went out of business and went into like something else. But um,
Oh wow.
I felt very lucky because for all the time you knew me, I was teaching also. Like I would work,
Yeah.
full time in the studio, and then I would like teach at night. I didn't do it
Hmm.
because I felt like, oh, I needed to or anything like that. I mean, I
Hmm.
actually like love doing it, but I do remember early in my career, meeting a great teacher, Charles Zimbilis.
Oh yeah, I had him too. He
Early
was great.
on, yeah, Charles Zimbilis
Yep. I
really.
took his classes right when I moved to LA.
Oh yeah, I
Immediately.
mean, talk about a pretty powerful guy. I mean, a very controversial guy, but you know,
Mhm.
um, incredibly powerful in what he did. Very
It's
passionate.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, pushed
Mhm.
all of us in ways that we probably didn't want to be pushed in. Um, but I remember, he really like helped me cultivate the idea of having something to do on the side. Always have like another sort of like side hustle type thing where you can get income from a lot of different places. And I felt like in the times where it was like the darkest, having that base from Charles early on really helped, me in particular, like, to get through those lean times because
Yeah.
suddenly, you're having to rethink everything. You're having to ask the really, deep questions. Am I good enough? Did I do something wrong?
Yeah.
Am I blacklisted
I
or whatever? All these like
I ask that
awful.
all the time. Like nobody calls me anymore. Like, but
Yeah,
that's the case with a lot of people. It's like I'm
yeah,
not the favorite for some reason. I don't know. I'm just
and that and
I'm different.
that's okay too because for the amount of time I've known you, not only as an artist, but I've known you as also a person of great faith. And that was another thing I truly admired about you, that the same energy and passion you put into your artwork, you also put into your worship. And I want to know, has your faith been something that's also been helpful to you in those kind of dark and lean times?
Well, I'm gonna say yeah, yeah. I mean, even when I can't find anything, I do think that like God helps comfort us in the times of need. I mean, obviously, like we can't use them. We can't take advantage, but like I think it's up to us. It's more like this. It's like no matter what the situation is, and there are times where I just feel like, oh, I don't feel like praying. I'm angry with God, or like I
Mm-hmm.
just don't feel like doing this anymore. It's just like, why are we in this? Why is the world in the position that it's in, the situation that it's in? Why are our lives like this? Why is my life like this? As things aren't working out, think, oh my God, what's going to happen in the future? What am I going to eat and wear tomorrow? And that's where I had to take a step back and pray and just ask him for guidance. And it's just there are going to be times where it's just you're going to have to humble yourself further and take a regular job, which I had done recently. I know another friend of mine uh, who's working at Target, um, and uh, and uh, and it's just it's and then I'm doing commissions. I feel like it's like 2010 all over again, which
Yeah, yeah.
in a way, but it was a creative time back then. It was great, but but I think today is like I think people have less money, so you're not gonna have as many people commissioning you. But I feel that even in these times, I just God blessed us with you know have the talents that people really want.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see real art from real artists and doing something that you don't see in the industry anymore, which is like to me, that they like classic animation styles of drawings. Um, and I just think that I think God has just pointed us, has put us here in many ways not just humble us, but also
Mm-hmm.
to give us a different perspective on things, a different perspective on life, to appreciate what we have, even if it's like for a quarter of what we had before, or a tenth. I mean, well, hope not a
Isn't
tenth,
it
but
interesting? Like, like you're saying, getting regular work, working, for a tenth of what you used to make. Um, I find that like the more you have, and this was something that I fell into, and I feel maybe this was a good thing in a lot of ways, but I felt the more I had, I didn't really need God as much. I felt like I didn't go to church as much. I didn't hunger to read God's word because I had plenty of money. I had plenty of accolades, I had plenty of like things. Like I felt like I'm kind of doing okay, without
Mhm.
anything else. Maybe I
Yeah,
was
no, we tend to
starting,
get complacent.
like we start becoming our own God, where we start thinking that like, we know better and then suddenly, boom, you hit the wall and you realize, oh, wait a second, like
Yeah, it's like a thief in the night.
this was all given to me. This was not
Yeah.
something that I even deserved. This was something that was given. And
Hmm.
now I need to like you said, humble yourself to say, you know what? As fast as things can come, they can also go away. And
Yeah.
that's okay. It's okay to have seasons in your life. And, again, maybe like you're saying, God has another lesson he's teaching us through this. He has another uh, great chapter yet to be written, because I
Hmm.
feel I feel like as long as people like yourself and me have a breath in our lungs, um, we're still on. There's still
Hmm.
like, even though like like you said, we're not in a studio, we're not doing projects like we used to. The opportunity is still there. It just is, it's a little different. It doesn't look
Hmm.
like we recognize it to look, and we have to kind of dig a little deeper within ourselves. And maybe that's what God wants. He wants the this current generation to be, the like you said, the most original, to dig the
Hmm.
deepest and to find the humanity, because no
Hmm.
matter what, AI is never going to catch up to what God's created, which is these
Absolutely, and
these
AI
being
shall never be a god. And
never.
I know there were some places that were trying to use like AI substitutes for intercessors, and that's something that I'm shaking my head at that.
Yeah.
It's like for one thing is that people are relying on too much, and I think it starts. That's when you start to when you start like just stepping in the bounds of the Antichrist, of an Antichrist spirit.
Right.
Excuse me. No, no.
You're speaking of Revelation too, the end of the Bible, where um, uh,
Oh yeah.
very very
Oh,
interesting, because I recently joined a Bible study class, and we meet every
oh, it's
week.
awesome.
And thank you. And believe me, not something I would have ever thought I would do back in my glory days of working in the industry, but now I find myself with a little more time on my hands, and I'm actually able, thank God, to seek His Word more, and to say,
Mhm.
man, I'd love to learn more about the being that created me and gave me this gift of creation, because uh, I went to Catholic school growing up,
Mhm.
and I always had a real difficulty trying to understand the Trinity. They always kind of like explain, three persons and one God, and I would always just like struggle with it. And then I remember hearing God as a creator, and I remember just connecting to that, and I said, well, I love to create. I love my creations. I'm not saying all of them equally, but I love the act of creation. And
Mhm.
I thought to myself, like, the time and effort you put into each of your characters, your drawings, um, there's so much love and passion that goes into that design. You can only imagine what your designer put into you, and how much your
Mhm.
designer loves and cares about you. And
Nice.
I feel like each of us are put on this planet with a mission, a very specific one. Whether that's you know working in the animation industry, or helping someone through listening to this podcast who might be going through a dark time right now.
Mhm.
um, all those
Oh, yeah.
things are within his design. and
Yeah.
and I feel like things are when things are going good, it doesn't really test you. But when things are going really bad and extremely lean, it's like God is sharpening you. He wants a much sharper version of what you were before. Because, here we are giving glory to ourselves, probably going to animation conventions and someone recognizing you and saying, hey, Richard, you're one of the best artists and yada, yada. And it feels good. It feels good to have people recognize you and give you praise. But it's eventually hollow. It's empty if we don't find ways to worship and find things that will never fade, that'll never diminish. And that is something that's truly brought me back to God's word, because I know that is eternal. And you talk about revelations, God's already laid everything out. He's like, here you go. I'll show you all the way to the end what's going to happen. And it's up to you to seek my word and to find a way to, trust in him. And I find that's been the most difficult part about this season for me since
2023
is I often find myself not trusting.
Well, I've been wrestling a lot, man. I've been wrestling with with God a lot. I mean, there's a lot of conflict.
Sure.
And I know that I'm on the wrong, because I've been really between like the things happening in the world today and just the uncertainty of of work. It just drives me it just drove me to insanity. And so, I have to constantly there are times where I flip out, not in front of other people, but
sure.
I just don't. And so I just have to go back to God and be like, "Oh my God, I slipped. So I'm sorry. I repent for this, and can you forgive me, God? I need to just focus on you and help me get through this. Help us with our patience, and to continue to build our convictions and not allow the anything in the world, the events in the world." To affect us, whether it affects us personally or or if it's something that's external, no matter what, you can't let it affect you, because you have to focus on what God is in store for you, what God is is commanding you to do, or just is pointing you. We have to listen to the Spirit. That means we have to pray. We also have to, and a lot of times I don't do this, so I feel like a lot of times, again, I speak as a hypocrite sometimes. So, but it's something that we have to keep doing and to keep recalibrating ourselves, so that we don't fall. We don't fall from not just fall from grace, but also that we don't become so focused on the flesh. In other words, the flesh could be the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or that we can that we become so focused on that even if it's done out of righteous anger, out of a genuine concern, to try to think for things to be better for other people as well, that we get so focused on that we lose sight of God, and we fall into emotion, and that emotion can lead us to God knows what. And this is where, God gives us the authority to have control over our lives.
Exactly.
And that's it's for me, I'm very eccentric, and I tend to be prone to just more emotional spasms than most other people. Just reacting I'm more reactive in a lot of ways. And so, some people will call that Asperger's. I don't know. But
I'm a huge boxing fan. More the golden age of boxing.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
There's a particular trainer. I believe it was Lou something. Shoot, his last name's eluding me, but he trained Sugar Ray Leonard and a lot of the stars of the '80s. And there was a bad call that was made during one of his fighters' fights, and he got extremely pissed off at the referee who made this bad call. And he did something that he coined the term Italian mad. And when he said that, I said to myself,
Oh no.
um, maybe that kind of, like you said, that emotion comes from, your Italian heritage and
Mm.
the passion that you have, which allows for such incredible artwork, you know, uh, can also, be kind of destructive at times as well. So,
Yeah.
the passion that you
Oh yeah.
feel creatively sometimes can manifest because we're complicated creatures. We're complicated beings. We're not all one thing, and that's okay. It's okay to have those emotions. What's not okay is to destroy others, to tear others down, to tear yourself down.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
you,
And
you
letting jealousy do that.
jealousy, all these
Oh yeah.
these very human things that, believe it or not,
I
so
used
many.
to be so jealous too.
Yeah, I mean, well, they say it in the book. The flesh is weak. We're inherently
Hmm.
weak um, in the flesh, and that's okay.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
God does not need us, to be perfect. He is perfect. What He needs
Yeah.
is for us to trust Him, and I find more so than not, that's the hardest thing that I struggle with is to um, let God do His job, which is
Yeah.
teaching me whatever I need to learn, whether I like it or not, whether I'm going to go kicking and screaming, which 9 times out of 10 I do, because I feel like I know better for my life. Um, and the times where I just let go and I say, okay, God, you take over. Just like we did with our careers. There was a time before, and for me, I was washing cars before I got into the animation industry. And
Yeah.
I trusted God. I prayed and I said, this is something I truly want to do. I want to be an artist. I want to create. And God heard that prayer and said, absolutely. And God heard your prayer and said, absolutely. So
Yeah.
we have to realize that, like, God needs us for things, but He also needs us for other things too. And they may not be exactly what we want, but it's what He needs. And
Yes.
I think in this season of our life, it's a very, very good learning experience because I
Yeah.
truly feel God has more in store for all of us. Even if we've been displaced, in the industry and found
Mhm.
ourselves in different parts of the state or different parts of, the
Mhm. You
workforce.
know, what's really funny too is that like even though that I haven't been finding work and that I know people that are still working, uh, back in like a decade ago, I would have been like super jealous of them. And but now it's just like for some reason I'm at peace.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I mean, which is I'm just at peace with it. I'm like, you know what? It's just we're not all gonna be we're not all the same, and we have there are different opportunities.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, absolutely, and like we and I think now is a time like as much as I'd like to get like to get back in the industry, or any of us would like to do that. As much as we'd like the pay that we had, I think this is the time that we need to start like really trying to like fine tune. Well, maybe not fine tune, but at least um, reorient ourselves so that we're not dependent on any studio. We're not dependent on any company.
Wow.
So we're basically a lot more free. Um, in terms, at least in terms of uh, of not being beholden to either the demands of a studio or to the any kind of politics or anything that may try to un that may try to to do things that will go against our values. So I think this is definitely the time where we all have to establish ourselves,
Wow.
and reorient ourselves, and this is where I think where we may have we may have the breakthroughs that we're looking for. So
Absolutely. I mean, again, it
and
does, just because we're shedding the skin. doesn't mean that there isn't something more beautiful underneath it.
Yeah.
We could look at like our prior career as in our eyes as being perfect or amazing or whatever, but there's probably something better underneath it. There's a butterfly that needs to emerge. Whether that butterfly is as like you said as successful or makes a good amount of money or not really doesn't matter. But really, like our own personal artistic integrity, um, our creativity, truly our creativity, truly us creating something from scratch,
Hmm.
is going to be something that is going to be tested. And I truly feel like this era could really create some of the most original material. I tell all my students now, because so much of
Good way of looking at it.
a lot of my students now are like, well, I can't do that. That's just too big of a, that's too big of a task. And I say, um, just focus on one page, one page of story or script, and create the
Mhm.
characters for that. Maybe we can board a little sequence from that, post it online. You don't ever have, I tell them all the time, you don't ever have to have a project that sits on the shelf, which for a lot of you people out there, you would pitch to a studio and they would have the opportunity to option your project. And if they liked it, they would pay you a little bit of money. And a lot of times they'd do nothing with it. They'd leave it in
Yeah.
in sort of creative limbo for a few years, and then guess what?
Hmm.
Other studios would create things that kind of were similar to it, and you'd
Yeah.
probably you'd probably lose out on your idea. That doesn't have to
Hmm.
happen today. You can
Yeah.
go to Instagram or any one of these places and post your work or post your project and build an audience. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but I always say if you can make $1 doing what you love, that's a success to me. I
Mm.
know that sounds kind of corny and cheesy, but that's it. $1. That's all you got to do. I'm currently using Patreon, and I just passed my $5 threshold. I've actually made $5 on Patreon, which again for me, that's huge. It's $5 I didn't have yesterday, and that's
Yeah.
somebody who believes in what I'm doing and
Mm.
is allowing me the opportunity to create this podcast or to create other
Hmm.
content or things that can be helpful to others. Um,
Hmm.
so again, success, it's going to come in many forms. And I'm just so grateful and happy that you and me got to taste success from an era that was truly magical, very, very special time. Um, but for me, the thing I've taken from it is of greatest value is the friendships. To
Hmm.
say I'm your friend is something that I truly cherish. You've been a great person in my life. You've inspired me so much, given me so much hope. Um, been there for me in my dark times. Prayed for me. Uh, I mean, again, like I said, you've done so much in my life. I can only imagine the great things you're going to do in other people's lives going forward. And hopefully, again, when you look in the mirror, don't be so hard on yourself. Like I said, you're a good guy, man. So.
Thanks.
Absolutely, man. I mean, this podcast to me is about people that I admire and people that I look up to. Um,
Yeah.
and you need that in your life. You need your heroes. You need the people that um, you can look at and say to yourself, you know what, this guy works so hard. This guy really pushes himself in so many great ways, and it's how I start my day. I look at art that you create. I look at art that others create, um, and man, it just makes me want to do more. I
Mhm.
feel just so like that restless spirit. I feel like exactly like you in that respect, where I got to be doing something. So
Mhm.
um, I can bet that at your day job you're still finding a little scrap piece of paper somewhere and a pen and doing some pretty incredible stuff on the down low. But
Oh, we don't have time. We don't have time. It's a very it's very busy.
wait,
It's very physical.
wait a second.
Which
You do have lunch breaks though, right?
well, I work part time, so it's like
uh,
I work 20
uh,
like 20 around 20 hours a
yeah,
week.
I'm just
And
teasing you.
for,
I'm just teasing
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I did again, like I said, just it's amazing, man. It's amazing how much we've seen and how much we've been a part of, and I can always say at the end of the day, we did it. We went after a dream and
Mhm.
uh, pushed ourselves to that absolute point, and we got there. There's
Yeah.
nothing, there really is nothing you can ever like explain to someone who hasn't done that. Put everything out there, even though you're surrounded by failure. You're surrounded
Mhm.
by other people saying this would never happen. You can't do this. I don't know about you.
Mhm.
I didn't have anybody in my life, uh, you know, uh, that did this, that ever accomplished a dream that they really wanted to do. I had
Mhm.
people that would draw, and I would hang out with them, but they never took it seriously like I did.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I that even like that happened to me like when I was in Florida too, and I was going to school. So a lot of people just did not take advantage of their education. They didn't push themselves, and a lot of students, they just pretty much were, just did the bare minimum, graduated, and wondered why they never got a job anywhere.
right, right. I mean,
Yeah.
I felt like, and this was a weird thing, and I don't know if you felt like this, but growing up, um, I looked at things on TV and I looked at stuff just like my other friends. We'd all hang out and watch, Batman the Animated Series or Ren and Stimpy or, any one of these like cartoons. And I kind of felt like I could do that, like I
Yeah.
felt like, you know what? I think that's possible. It sounded
Mhm.
so crazy. And I remember the looks I would get from my friends like, yeah, I mean, I guess so, but they just would never expect that to come out of me. And I remember like
Mhm.
through high school too, I could feel it getting stronger. I could feel like, um, this desire compulsion to be amongst the best was
Mhm.
something I couldn't suppress, and it to me, I felt like it was there for a reason, that burning
Mhm.
desire is not put inside of you by mistake. I really do feel like there's something there that we're just sort of built different in a way. Not saying that I personally believe like there's something special about me or anything like that, but um, I'm a
Yeah.
very stubborn person. I always say my spirit animal is definitely a donkey, because
Yeah.
I'm extremely stubborn. And
Yeah.
I don't know
I can be too.
if my dad was a amazingly talented artist, and I always say he had the heart of a lion. Like he never needed to take a class or anything, and he was just so naturally gifted.
Mhm.
But I never shared that. I always was the most untalented person you could ever meet. But I was always like determined to have or to be able to do something close to what that talented person could do. Um,
What would be your spirit animal? Like if his was a lion.
Oh, I like I said, I think it would definitely be a donkey. Only because
Really?
I will if I get something in my mind that I want to do, um,
Mhm.
I will not stop until I do it. Even if I get there, crawling on my belly, and I got
Yeah.
one finger on the tip of Mount Everest, I will achieve whatever it is I need
Mhm.
to achieve to make that happen. And I just honestly, like deep within myself, Richard, um, I feel like when I thought to myself in high school or while I was working, washing cars, I knew this wasn't it for me. I just had a feeling deep inside that something good was going to happen, and I knew that the more I drew, and the more I allowed whatever this is inside of me to come out, um, I knew
Hmm.
something special was going to happen. I didn't know what, maybe nothing, maybe it was just all for nothing, but
Yeah.
somebody was listening, I think God was with me the whole time. And I think God is with us right now. I think God needs all of us to know that even though this is difficult and it's hard, hey, it's not so different than the time it was before we got in, working jobs we
Yeah.
hated, doing whatever it took to make our dream a reality. Why
Yeah.
why was that something that we felt we were immune from? Because we
Hmm.
had success, and I felt like that's the greatest lesson that I've been taught is
Hmm.
this is not something that was owed to me. This is a
Oh no,
gift.
it's not owed. It's, it is. We're not entitled to any of it.
Not at all, and every day I thank God, for another day on earth. As my dad always told me, every day above ground is a good day, an opportunity, to do something. And now I'm a father, which is an even
That's
more.
awesome. I'm so glad.
And now my daughter, um, anytime we're together, she's really into mermaids right now. So I must
Hmm.
have drawn over 100 different mermaids for her. And
Wow.
anytime there's like a sheet of paper or anything, she says Cully. She's 2 years old, so she wants to say color, but she says Cully. She's all Cully,
Uh
Cully, and we sit
huh.
and we draw together. For her, it's like
Yeah.
simple shapes and little things. Or if I draw
Hmm.
something, she'll draw on top of it, and
Uh huh.
but I can see it in her. I could see the spark, and it's the most beautiful thing, Richard, that like I've ever witnessed in my life. Like just seeing her light up when we draw together. And
Yeah.
just seeing that next generation start to pick up on something
Yeah.
it's magic, man. It's so magical, and I
You
feel
know, it's just I'd say, you know what, as she's growing up, I'd say like keep her for the most part away from like excess technology, and just have her draw and be inspired and read a lot.
yes, yeah. She loves
Yeah.
books. Um, we do have like a tablet that she watches movies on. She's a big uh, John Hughes fan. She loves a lot of the 80 movies from the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
Wow.
John Candy is like one of her favorite actors. Like she loves like,
I'm glad to see that. I'm really glad
but
you know.
right now, she was watching a lot of like CGI type cartoons, and I started like wanting to introduce her to more 2D stuff.
Hmm.
And Little Mermaid was just one of those movies that really connected with her, and
Hmm.
she's absolutely infatuated with everything to do with mermaids. So,
That's
um,
really good.
and the fact that her dad can draw her Ariel or draw her things, just makes it that much more, because I pretty much anywhere we go, she wants a drawing of a mermaid. So I have to work on command. She's my best client right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but again, man, I just it's we were only supposed to do an hour. Here we are, an hour and 30 minutes over. So again, I know you're super busy and super tired, from a long day's work. So
Yeah.
um, again, I wanted just to thank you so much, man, from the bottom of my heart. I really feel that young people today can learn a lot from you. Where can people find you? Do you, like if they want to hire you for commissions, or if they want to hire you for work? How can people get a hold of
Uh,
you?
oh, well, I do have a few sites.
Okay.
Um, let's go with the basics. My Instagram is let me see. Let me I
And don't
it's
feel like on the spot or anything. I can always put a link to your Instagram in this
yeah,
video once I post it.
yeah.
But I do
Okay.
want to make sure I share your amazing lemur stream, which I have been in the audience a few times for. I've never done a request or anything, but
Oh, really? Even the wow.
I've
Okay.
I've definitely watched the stream. I mean, again, like I said, I'm a huge fan of what you do, and for any of you out there who have not witnessed Richard drawing, you really got to do it. Especially if you want to be in the industry, or if you want to learn from somebody who's been in the industry, and see their techniques and see their passion. The lemur stream is definitely something that I look at almost as like a school. Just
Yeah.
watching your techniques, watching how you start a drawing, how you finish a drawing. What kind of
Screwing up,
brushes.
starting over again, like taking like 3 drawings to do 1 drawing.
Right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
that to me is the reality of what it feels like to create. It's not it's sometimes it's a very messy process,
It's
and
especially when you have to do like 2 characters interacting and come up with a gag that
right.
somebody does.
So
It's
the lemur stream is something I will put a link to, for people to check out, and to, again, like I said, just put the word out there, that this is something that, you're passionate about. And I'm just so happy to see you doing this. And I know in my heart, this is not the end. There's a lot of big things waiting for you in the industry, whether it's, the industry we remember, or a completely new industry, or one you create.
Mhm.
There's a lot more, I think, to come from Gaines Animation. And I coined the term right there, so
But you're like you're super talented. You're way more talented than me. So
no, man, not even, man. I'm like I said, very humbled. Like I said, every time, and I will say this: every time I heard like you got a job over me, I was so happy and just so elated, because a lot of these people I knew, who were doing the hiring,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
said, you got something special with Richard.
Mhm.
So every time I was like, man, what a diamond in the rough. Somebody who, again, one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. I think Darwin Cook is the only person that I've ever seen that has your work ethic. Just an absolute machine, and
Yeah.
creative icon. So
Yeah.
again, like I said, much love, brother. So happy to talk to you. Hopefully, we can hang out again soon. The next time I'm in California, um, and
No, for sure.
have some lunch and catch up, and But other than that, man, like I said, thank you so much for doing the ADC podcast. Please say hello to our mutual friends. Your
Yeah.
roommates and people that I truly love and admire as well. And God bless you, man. Like I said, continue your faith and your uh, quest to become closer to God. And I hope everyone listening does the same. And again, thank you so much, Richard. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
You too, buddy. All right, you have a
All
good
right.
night, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, you too.
Okay, buddy.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.